Kerrigan. We've seen Illidan as a direct counter to Kerrigan on this map. We've seen weird things in the EU scene, like, oh yeah, we're gonna draft Kerrigan, you're gonna draft Illidan, then we're gonna draft double support, one of whom is Lili, and we're just gonna keep Illidan chain blinded, and we're gonna kill Illidan because he can't heal.
Oh man, those were the good days when that was actually seen a little bit more frequently. The Lili counter to an Illidan comp makes my heart smile every single time. But guys, we are now in the second draft of the first series of the day between eStar on the left-hand side and SPT. Super perfect team in the red colors once more. The current score is 1-0, as you can see. We're playing on Infernal Shrines, just in case you're not able to read Chinese. And it's a very interesting one. It's a very exciting one. We see once again a ban on Tassadar Zarya, this time making it all the way through. But I think she's probably not going to get first pick, let's face it. I don't think her priority is that high. In Korea, that might be a little bit of a different story. Korean teams are very much known for prioritizing Zarya very, very heavily. But for now, we see the Vala as a first pick. It's a very safe pick these days. Vala considered to be one of the best auto attackers, if not the best auto attacker ranged assassin that we have right now. Has great synergy with heroes like Tassadar, who's unfortunately banned. But even without it, we can still see an Oriel coming in here maybe. Even Oriel, Karazim double support comes is something that I've seen in Europe over the last few weeks. And it's going to be an interesting thing to see how much teams in China are prioritizing double support comms, Cavalier.
I think it was actually Super Perfect Team for one game during GCWC that ran Mouth Ariel to. It was a specific draft. They had a support choke because the enemy team banned a support as well, which is kind of the case here with Passerman. I don't think we're going to see that out of them. But SPT is not afraid to do unusual drafts that we're not going to see from other teams. But yeah, I was going to say Zarya is not going to make it back, because if you give Vala a shielder, the fact that Vala can then play aggressively, it's so frustrating to deal with, because she's such a fragile target, but she puts out so much damage. But if she just steps up to you and then she gets a shield and you try and put damage onto her, it doesn't work. And then Zarya is there, you sometimes would feel the heat, particularly in the Chinese region, and you're just like, oh, well, this hurts. This is actually quite painful. We have to leave now. Like we fundamentally cannot win this fight. And the prioritization on Dahaka, again, not surprising. This has always been, Dahaka's always been a top tier pick in the Chinese meta, literally since he was released.
And picking Dahaka plus Zarya together already gives them so much shrine control. I mean, especially after level 10, when Zarya has access to that expulsion zone, she can single-handedly prevent enemies from taking any of these remaining skeletons. Dahaka also can guard those entrances very well, you know, licking a tongue in that gets a little bit too cheeky. By the same token, though, we see another hero that excels on Infernal Shrines due to the way the objective is designed with all those skeletons nearby. The Sonya, actually a hero on the rise here, now that Varian, for example, no longer has Warbringer to constantly interrupt her while she's spinning. And I think Sonya, not only does she add a lot of teamfight power during those shrine battles, she's also a great solo laner, which you really need to have against a Dahaka, who's otherwise just going to outpush you 24/7. Also, we see the Oriel being picked here. Great synergy with Avala in general, because she's a very reliable, consistent DPS source to constantly grant her a lot of energy. It remains to be seen, though, if we are going to see another support added in here on the side of SPT, or if it's going to be a solo Oriel comp here. Maybe a Gul'dan to be added later on. I wouldn't actually be surprised to see a Gul'dan coming in now from eStar, just to deny them another source of wave clear, another source of energy accumulation for Oriel.
I wouldn't actually be surprised if Super Perfect Team went Triple Warrior.
Okay.
That is something they have been known for, to have really, really heavy front lines. Occasionally, they will run like double bruiser comps, Sonya plus Ragnaros plus a tank, things like that. And we do see ETC being picked up here for eStar. Now they're going Triple Warrior. And the funny thing is low damage comps like Triple Warrior perform really poorly into Ariel, because the sustain healing from Ariel is always there. As long as someone on her team is doing damage, Ariel can sustain through any low damage composition, and they pick up the Greymane to try and up their overall damage. They do have a lot of lockdown with the slide plus the drag, but the slide is the only reliable interrupt in many ways they have for Whirlwind. And on a shrine, if you can't interrupt Sonya spinning, you cannot take the shrine away from her.
You cannot kill her, especially with a low damage comp, as you said, with a Triple Warrior. I'm kind of concerned for eStar in general, not only because of the Sonya, but as you said, the Oriel. You know, everybody knows the focus morale motto. Everybody knows that you need to focus the support sometimes in order to win a team fight. And I think the same rule applies for Oriel as well, because otherwise she's going to be able to have those massive AoE heals 24/7, especially if she picks the lower cooldown at 7. And to truly crack the defenses of an Oriel comp, you need to deal with the Oriel herself. I am not sure if eStar can do that right now, with the Greymane being the only true kill potential they have. I think it's all going to come down to a good lockdown, maybe with an expulsion zone, maybe with a nice ETC stage dive, or even a mosh pit, depending on what they're going to go for. And I think engagement and the angle of engagement for eStar is going to be key to dealing with that comp from SPT. Now we see a Ragnaros and a Johanna being locked in last, and I think Johanna makes a pretty good peeler if you play against Triple Warrior.
Yeah, and just like I said, they're going for the triple frontline. This is something they love to do. It's also something we've started to see quite a bit of whenever you have a Lucio or an Oriel. You pick up Johanna as your tank because she has a self-cleanse with her Iron Skin. You don't need cleanse if your frontline's being really disruptive and your frontline can self-cleanse. Or at the very minimum, you needed a lot less. I was kind of wondering if we might see a Chromie pickup instead of the Greymane. That is something the EU meta has sort of discovered, that Chromie's a really good counter to Oriel with her poke damage. It's very difficult for Oriel's carries to get in, to get forward, and deal with that level of poke. We didn't see that. It was not standard at all.
Yeah.
So
we all remember Schwimpy's glorious moments on the Chromie for sure. And I think you raise a good point there. The temporal loop potentially could have also been used on Oriel herself to force out an early Aegis, because she doesn't have the self-cleanse or anything. So maybe that would have been a nice tool to sort of pressure the support, which I consider to be the backbone for SPT's comps. Now we see a very melee-heavy team composition meta from both teams here. We see triple melee on the side of eStar, triple melee on the side of SPT. If we take a look at those two drafts, Cavalier, who do you think has the better cards to go into this game number 2 on Infernal?
I feel like up to 16, eStar's draft is going to be superior. I'm expecting to see Feel the Heat from Zarya, which is going to make her very difficult to engage into because she's going to do so much damage against heavy melee teams.
Yeah.
But post 16, with the heavy health pulls on eStar, Ragnaros' level 16 talent Giant Scorcher is going to get an enormous amount of value, and they have enough wave clear between the Johanna, the Vala, and the Ragnaros, plus with Molten Core, to get to 16 even. They're not in a position where they're going to fall behind in experience, even if they are compositionally favored pre-16, unless they make a mistake. And even if they do make a mistake, as long as it's not so bad that the Ragnaros is the one that dies, right as the Punisher's pushing in, they should be fine.
They should be fine indeed. It's all going to come down to those shrine fights, I feel. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here in game number 2 between eStar and SPT. On the left-hand side, we see Xingzi on the Greymane. We see H once again on the cow himself. We see... okay, that was a little bit too fast, but we're probably just going to scratch those introductions because the Chinese... observers and production crew are just too fast for us. But once again, SPT, they're looking strong, as you said, during the the later stages of the game, because their health pools are going to get more massive. Sonya gains access to more and more defensive talents. The Giant Scorcher, as you said, on Ragnaros can deal heavy amounts of AoE damage if eStar tends to clump up too much. Let's actually discuss the role of Lucio here. He's being picked for the first time here in the Chinese HGC. He has been prioritized heavily by other regions, though. I think he's basically picked up more and more momentum as time went by, and his teams kind of figured out what his strengths and weaknesses were. He went for Accelerando at level 1, so focusing on his own mobility and his own rotation a little bit more compared to the movement speed boost that we normally see from other teams across the world. Lucio, I think, pairs off really, really well with an engage-heavy comp, with an ETC and the Dehaka. So eStar is definitely going to make sure to just get those good flanks in and just maybe get a good engage on Oriel or on the Vala.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're looking for. Accelerando is the preferred pickup for almost all of the Korean supports, and you'll see them constantly riding the walls. If you're not riding a wall every 2 seconds as Lucio,
you're doing it wrong, man.
You're probably not good enough to play Lucio.
Exactly.
On a pro team. That's just sort of the way it is. We're going to see Sonya versus Dehaka in the solo lane matchup while Rag is in the 4-man. And actually, he's kind of managing mid while the rest of his team does the rotation. So maybe Johanna can get those globes. Vala has enough damage for picks, potentially, if they can make it happen. But eStar just doesn't care. eStar is just walking around the map and using the global to manage the unfavorable matchup. Sonya does really well into Dahaka. So instead they're just like, okay, well, let's rotate our 3-man up here. We'll have Dahaka burrow bot. And this is sort of the trademark in many ways of eStar. They will manage their macro in the early game, especially when they have a Zarya, so well that they're usually a level ahead against the majority of teams they play against.
And they show no fear. They dive deep because, thanks to the Zarya shields, they can't afford to do so. They don't care about that early game damage, and they don't care about the defending Sonya either. They just take tower after tower, and they're not stopping for the fort either. And I don't think SPT played those early game rotations very smartly. Giving up a fort that easily is usually not a good sign, and especially when you see a Zarya team come going in that recklessly, you just need to put something against them. Now, they finally get a pickup here onto Lucio, who couldn't really wall ride fast enough to get out of harm's way. But still, I think eStar is totally fine with sacrificing their support, considering all the structural damage they have inflicted on SPT already.
And it's still an advantage for them. I mean, they're still a full level ahead, and they also... SPT had to rotate basically 5 top to make those 2 picks happen, whereas Dahaka was bot that entire time. You can see from the minimap he's actually gotten the entire wall.
Yes.
He's starting to focus on the fountain, which is going to go down here in a second. And, you know, Melody C finally does rotate down to make this happen, but eStar X is on that fountain. It's going to be gone. And this is something you'll see top teams prioritize constantly. They try and get all of the outer fountains immediately as soon as they can, because every shrine that now spawns in that lane, they have an automatic advantage. They can go back and tap, and SPT cannot.
Exactly. You raise a very good point here. And eStar is totally fine with giving that first Punisher into the hands of SPT, because guess what? He can actually be leashed very easily. Despite the wall not being there, it would actually surprise me if they managed to get the entire fort here in the middle. It's an Arcane Punisher though, so you never know. It all comes down to how heavily eStar decides to commit to this. Actually, scratch my point from what I said earlier. They're just going to let this one fall, but take a look at the map here. They're more than fine with it. Dahaka's going to soak top. The bottom lane was pressured a little bit here as well, and I think they're just playing it, you know, a little bit more safely now. They know that they basically don't have to commit too hard for this one. And SPT now with a little bit of momentum going into their favor. On the other hand, they only have a 3-man squad here. ETC going in deep here, locking down Oriel. CZH here in a little bit of trouble, but reinforced by Melody C on the Ragnaros. And once again, SPT actually coming back stronger than I thought they would be able to. It's, once again, that one thing they need to finally do is to catch themselves later on, to basically not crumble under the pressure the moment eStar gets a little bit more stabilizing action going.
I love that knockback with Attainment Strike from
yes,
ZVH.
That was well
Every
played.
Time he goes onto him, he's just like, okay, I'm going to knock you towards my Johanna, and then my Johanna is going to condemn you even further away from me. And if you can't be on top of an Ariel, particularly post 7, like that battery, that combination of Ariel Vala, we talked about it in the draft, they can sustain through pretty much anything, especially this relatively low damage composition. It's going to be so hard for eStar to actually secure picks in the middle of big team fights. You can see they're so desperate to do it that they actually went for Pinball Wizard at 7 on ETC, which is not a talent we see very often. It is technically higher burst damage than Echo Pedal. They're 100% focused on trying to burst one person down and just get that isolation, but they've not yet managed to do that in a full team fight.
And look at the team come from SPT in general. Not only does Oriel have powerful AoE healing capabilities, but also almost every other team member, Johanna, the Sonya, the Ragnaros, they all have self-healing capabilities as well. Ragnaros can leech himself back up. Sonya has the spin to win. Johanna now has Laws of Hope next to Iron Skin. So it's going to be even easier for Oriel to just keep everybody alive and to especially focus on Vala as well, because she no longer has to worry about her frontliners 24/7.
I love this pushing from SPT here. They were trying to get the fountain. They got the entire wall, which is going to make it more difficult for eStar to retreat. eStar with the rotation up does deny that, but SPT picks up 10 from Ragnaros opening the bottom lane. This is going to mean Wings is going to be on the shrine by himself. He can spin to win on that all day long. eStar is going to have a very difficult time engaging into Johanna. Johanna now has less shield. She has a massive engage mechanic for her team, which is the thing she really lacks as a tank until 10.
Yeah, and you can already see how eStar doesn't even try to contest the shrine at all. Like, they know exactly that with the strong Sonya presence on the shrine and with them being kind of out of position, Greyman was in the bottom lane for a very long time, there's no way for them to accumulate enough skulls or enough skeletons to get that done. But we now see an engage by Lucio with reverse amp actually going down stage dive. As a follow-up here, the Crystal Aegis goes down, protects Vala so far, but she ends up falling, and that is a big blow to SPT. Can they swing back back, though. Molten Core goes down, couldn't be interrupted by anyone, and now here comes the retaliation strike. Zarya going down, Lucio getting sniped insanely well by the Molten Core, and this is all of a sudden a very, very catastrophic outcome for eStar. It looked good when they managed to get the Vala very, very fast, but oftentimes in those teamfights, when you commit too many resources just to take one team member down, the remaining ones, in that case, the Johanna and the Sonya in particular, they just turned around, and Melody C on that Ragnaros, when he unleashed that Molten Core, he just finished up eStar, who were on the retreat. So very, very nice turnaround here from our quote-unquote underdog team.
That was amazing. eStar put literally every single cooldown they had into Vala, and yes, they killed her, but with the Rag takeover, they got the triple reverse kill. And if you have to put everything into Vala just to kill her and make sure that the healing gets mitigated, then you basically lose that team fight because the rest of the team still has all of their cooldowns remaining. It is worth noting that Lucio went reverse amp. eStar go the moment they hit 10. They got that massive slow, which is what allowed them to force that fight. Slowing down Vala with that hot pursuit is pretty much the only way this comp can catch up to her and kill her, even though they do have the speed boost as well from Lucio. Sonya moves a little bit faster. Johanna took Conviction at 7. She's moving a little bit faster. Rag has his E. He can move a little bit faster. Like, everyone on SPT can move a little bit faster, can sort of deal with the Lucio speed boost unless they get slowed by something big. And that's Intel 13 and potentially Face Melt from ETC. That's the only skill they have access to. So they're like, okay, we're not going to get bursted out. We're not afraid of burst in any way, shape, or form, despite the fact that there's Blessed Shield smashes there. We need to catch up. And this is a really interesting use of reverse amp, just to be like, okay, we absolutely need to force fights. They're essentially playing a dive comp 100% with Triple Warrior.
It's a little bit like, basically, ETC and Lucio are going to have to coordinate their heroic abilities very well because they both have slows available, and if they use it a little bit too overlappingly, then I think they might not get the full value out of it. But you're right, they're basically sacrificing survivability with the sound barrier in terms of, or in favor of more lockdown, in terms of more movement speed slow for the enemy team. And I think with the Zarya in their team, they can actually allow themselves to do so, because Zarya adds a lot of additional protection. They also have the amp it up anyway, and as you said, most of their team members are quite resilient innately, so it remains to be seen whether the reverse amp is going to have the desired effect, or if they would have needed more protection still in the end, because we saw Ragnaros doing tons of damage, and Melody C here, especially with that Molten Core Sulfurous, doing great work in favor of SPT.
You can see another advantage of SPT's team comp here. They have multiple heroes who can lane effectively by themselves and multiple heroes who can solo camp. Sonya started that camp while Rag was pushing out the lane. Normally it'd be, Sonya grabs the camp and then goes and pushes out the lane for 1 or 2 waves. But this allows Wings to get on the shrine immediately as it spawns. And we're going to see Ariel rotate up as well, make sure she's there. But this is just a bottom push. This is something that Zarya Greymane in particular is extremely effective at doing in the game. If you're like, oh, well, we're not going to concede that objective. But you know what we can do? We can just push and get a keep pretty much automatically with our shields, our single target damage. Forces a response. Melody C has to come down and check it.
Yeah, beautiful soaking up the damage here by Tiger. The question is, like, how much do they want to commit to this push? Already Melody C and Vala, they had to rotate down the bottom because they knew otherwise they might lose the tower line, they might even take some serious damage on the keep. But eStar hasn't really managed to get any form of shrine control whatsoever. That's the third Punisher, if I'm not mistaken, in favor of SPT. This time, it is a frozen one. If this trend continues, despite eStar getting a little bit of value with a split push going on, I think it's not going to help them too much. And as time goes by, Punishers are going to get stronger, they're going to scale better. So already we can see that the first keep could be threatened very gravely here for eStar. And they're going to have to make use of Dehaka's global mobility here to maybe soak a little bit more towards that 16. And he needs to help his teammates in the nick of time, though, because SPT is going in and locking down Lucio. Lucia, I might want to say, that was one of the quickest takedowns I have seen in this series so far. And with one person down, especially their support, I don't think eStar can rally here. But Wings taking a lot of damage. And Kendrick, you are a liar. eStar managing to stabilize in dominant fashion, and they're taking out 4 members from SPT at the same time. And once again, we saw how wasting too many cooldowns on one individual target can actually expose the rest of your team and can actually allow eStar, in that case, to rally and come back in glorious fashion. They don't even need their support in that case. Cavalier. I did not expect this team fight to go so well for eStar.
Now, that was one of the weirdest team fights I think I've ever seen in a professional. Like, Lucio popped reverse amp on just one target, and he literally stood there. There's a wall right next to him. He took hardstyle at 13. He could have gotten on and, skied on his building. He would have been taking 20% less damage. He could have used Accelerondo to juke the smash, and instead he just died. Ariel was really far forward, not behind the Vala, not making sure the Vala was alive. And eStar just managed to pick them off one at a time, despite the fact that they got the first kill. That was a very weird decision in terms of SPT's positioning all around. Like, literally everyone on their team was in a weird position.
Yeah, when the first couple of seconds went down, I was like, okay, SPT got this pretty easy peasy, but no, it actually hit them hard. And now Oriel trying to save Johanna here. Misaka taking a lot of damage. Once again, eStar just doesn't seem to have what it takes to punch through. Oriel just keeps on healing everybody. Sonya, self-heal. Johanna, self-heal. Vala just has free reign because they're focusing too much on the frontliners here. And as we said earlier, neither the Dahaka with the Burrow nor the ETC with the Stage Dive were able to kind of pressure the backline so far. Oriel just has free reign. The Crystal Age is always on point, and I think they're basically going to end this game here with a final push on the core. Now the Stage Dive comes in, though, slows everybody on the side of SPT. They're taking a lot of damage. 2 people down. Can eStar pull it off? This time they're focusing the Oriel. The Crystal Age is still on cooldown, and I can't believe what's happening here. eStar holding strong with one mighty engage from Age. The Stage Dive on point, and they're collecting everybody. Sing Z going to town against Wings on the Sonya. What are we seeing here, Cavalier?
We're seeing mistake is what we're seeing. You cannot do that with Ariel. Ariel is the worst support to make close core calls like that one. Even in a 5v3, Ariel's healing PvE, her hope generation against PvE as opposed to PvP targets is so low that you actually can't end core in those circumstances. The death timers are too short as well. Stage Dive was still available, and they all grouped up to try and maximize the Ariel healing, which just gave Stage Dive such an incredible amount of value. This is a surprising amount of damage. Most people think it was a global. A little bit of B-stepping from Misaka here as Lucio chases down. This is a matchup when Johanna's already low.
Just having
Lucio
fun, man.
Guaranteed to win. Believe it or not, and that is going to be a dead Johanna going down.
At some point,
space for her team though.
Everyone's favorite Crusader is going to fall
for SPT.
Yeah, you might actually question that, that stalling from Johanna, because now she's going to be dead for a longer period of time, and it actually bought time for eStar to finish this shrine a little bit quicker. So the longer death timer sometimes bites you, actually, instead of... it's cool to survive for as long as possible, stalling or distracting at least 1 or 2 enemy heroes, but by the same token, oftentimes having that longer death timer can actually hurt you when it comes to rallying and defending. In this case, though, I think they're going to be fine. Death timers are not long enough yet, pre-20, to really make a big difference here. And it also gave more time, though, for eStar to collect a couple of mercenary camps here. They could even consider going for some of those fallen shaman camps, and I think that's actually what they're going to do. They leave up 1 skeleton, and they're taking their fallen shaman camp here first. A very smart move to provide additional lane pressure in that top lane. Actually, a really, really good call.
With the Haka hiding in the bottom lane here, he's waiting to clear this wave until he knows where SPT is. They could even soak 20 and then get the Punisher and push with it. And if they're pushing with the Shaman Camp and 20 and the Punisher into that top keep, which is already exposed, they could easily end the game off of a single pick, even against Molten Core. We still see the Haka hiding in the brush down there. SPT does not necessarily know where he is. They're trying to force the fight before that happens because they know that you're not going to have... They're going to be in a lot of trouble if they let eStar hit 20.
The Blessed Shield not hitting anyone here, unfortunately. Misaka... a little bit with a misaim here, and now with 1 heroic ability to lock them down on cooldown, this might be the time window for eStar to finish the Punisher, to maybe soak up that 20, and maybe even get that second Fallen Shaman camp in the half of SPT. I think they're going to take full advantage of this, and they have to, because they already lost middle. This is basically the very short time window to fight with a massive advantage in their favor, and yep, looks like they're going to take that next mercenary camp. They also want to soak 20 though, so Lucio needs to be very careful not to overextend. A dead support this time they basically can't afford.
No, they want to push in. They want to end here. This is the best opportunity they're going to have. If they have an even fight in the very, very late game with SPT, there's a chance they can come back. You're going to see the just come down here, and he does not get away. The reverse amp actually does enough damage, but Lucio ends up going down. They trade 1 for 1, and then they pause the
Okay, they killed Vala, but what? They paused the game? Okay, that is a little bit unfortunate because in one of the most important team fights of the game,
This is how it works. The support, in many ways, is the most important hero in the mid and back part of fights. If you lose your
Right.
support first ever, that's basically a lost fight.
that's basically the sign to retreat right there. I mean, very few teams can still manage to win a team fight when their support just dies like that early on. And we also lost Age on the HGC here, so 2 members dead for eStar currently. I might want to say this could have been the saving grace for SPT because it was looking very, very grim for them. They had the Punisher against them, they had a Mercenary camp pushing as well, and the level 20 advantage on the side of eStar as well. So maybe some supernatural divine power stepping in here and saying, no, eStar, not today, not now. You're going to have to work harder in order to get that victory.
Ever. And SPT saved their keep, which is critical. They hit 20. Johanna actually picked up Storm Shield, so Vala's death should be cut down quite significantly. Farflight Quiver also picked up. Now Vala can stand significantly further back and still be feeding Ariel hope to keep that triple front line alive and well. That is going to be a huge boost to SPT's team survivability. And if Vala doesn't die, like every team fight eStar's come even close to winning, they've managed to kill Vala first. If they can't kill Vala, if Vala stays alive because of Aegis, because of Storm Shield, because of the increased range, because of Shield of Hope, eStar doesn't have a prayer of dealing with that level of damage.
Speaking of Storm Talons at level 20, we see Grenadier coming in for Zarya. We don't see the Unyielding Defender being able to reset both shields, both barriers, instantly. So we see a focus even more on damage here for the side of eStar. And I really think that Zarya, if she gets rolling, and if she gets that high energy meter, her grenades can actually deal terrible, terrible damage on the side of SPT. But I'm a little bit skeptical on the side of eStar that they're going to crack the defenses because, as you said, Storm Shield available. Then we have Shields of Hope here for Oriel as well. They have so much AoE protection that it's going to be incredibly, insanely hard for eStar to land a kill here. Now, they're backdooring that top keep, which was kind of exposed from the previous teamfight already, and nice pickup there. That's really something cool to behold every single time you watch competitive Heroes of the Storm. The spot on decision making, the capitalization on every tiny window they get. Well played by eStar. World-class team right there.
That was a beautiful setup for eStar. They actually had Dahaka walk through the top jungle to make sure that SPT was not setting up any sort of trap. He does have the upgrade to adaptation to make sure he has even more healing. His team would have been able to get to him in time if they had been there, if he'd face checked the bush. And then they didn't see them. They saw them on bot, and they were like, oh, we know we can rotate through here safely and back those up. They won't be able to back in time.
All right, everybody. Thanks for your patience. We're not wasting any time. We're diving right back into the action. The game is back online. ETC, for some reason, survived, and it was Lucio that died. We're also going to give you some in-game sound here for sure. And SPT is on the march. They're threatening the base of eStar with a Punisher and their fully assembled team. Look at Dahaka, though, on the minimap. You will see him split pushing. The naked lane in top is exposed. He might actually try to maybe force a recall from 1 or 2 players from SPT, but for now, it's looking rather grim for eStar. Let's see what they're going to make of this Cavalier.
You can see Melody C's just sort of wandering right to core.
ETC actually joined with a stage dive.
Instead, and he can take over that keep whenever he wants to. There's no way that he wins this game. They just gave up.
Exactly. That's all they basically
could. There's no other way to put that.
Yeah. They just hope to maybe get a miraculous race going in their favor, but there was nothing to be done here. It remains to be let's just put it this way. Maybe without those disconnects, eStar could have stabilized and played that late game a little bit better. But even without the technical difficulties that we experienced here in that second game, I think SPT played a much cleaner, a much better game in total. They thought through their team comp very, very well. They basically picked that Oriel with a triple front line, and all of those targets, be it the Sonya, be it the Ragnaros, being that Johanna had some sort of self-sustain, which made their whole entire team come very, very hard to crack. And I think eStar, even without those technical difficulties, had very little chance of actually punching through. So the series is now tied 1-1, and Super Perfect Team is looking stronger, much stronger than they did in Game 1.